In the last class, we have just seen the pathogenesis behind diabetic retinopathy. In today's class, what we are exactly going to discuss is what are all the changes that occur in case of diabetic retinopathy in the retina. So, how it is occurring and what are the causes of for those changes. These are the things that we are going to discuss in today's class. So, we will also discuss how those changes are going to lead to different signs and symptoms in case of a diabetic retinopathy. Before going in depth with the class, we'll just have a recap of what we had discussed in the last class. Coming to the pathogenesis, high level of glucose is going to will be getting converted into sorbitol, which is going to cause the changes in the stimulate the changes in the high level of glucose will combine with protein and carbohydrates, and then they form a AGAS, which is again going to have a major effect on the blood vessels and the cell death. What is capilloropathy is it is like we have also discussed about the pericyte loss, which is going to have which is the major cause of leakage in the retina. So we have just seen how the pericyte is getting lost as well. Then comes it is like how once the pericyte is lost, how the yellowish and exudates are formed, and how the cottonules are formed, and how the edemas are formed. These are the results of pericyte loss. Then comes the neovascularization. Neovascularization is the new formation of a new vessels. This is due to hypoxia. Okay, so here this is a one second. Here this is a neovascularization in the disc. This is neovascularization in the peripheral retina, which we call as neovascularization elsewhere. This is neovascularization in the iris or the rubeosis. So this is the reason why slit lamp examination, even if you don't see a fundus regularly, if you could be able to see a slit lamp and assess the anterior segment, you will be able to find few changes, which is a sign of posterior changes. So these are the different types of diabetic retinopathy. Today's class is like we are starting with what is microaneurysm. What is microaneurysm is the blood vessels start to pouching out. So what exactly is happening here is, so in the previous class, as I said, we are supposed to consider a blood vessel as a continuous pipe, so which is flowing with the blood. Okay, so in case if there is a pericyte loss, there is a thinning out of a pipe in the particular area. Okay, so in this case, what is happening here is blood has a particular pressure. That's a blood pressure is there. So the blood is being flown within the vessels with a particular pressure. So what will happen is, when it is flowing within the pipe or within the blood vessels, if there is a thinning out area, weakening area due to loss of pericytes, it will start to bulge like a balloon. Okay, those bulgings are called as microaneurysms. Okay, so here microaneurysms doesn't lead to leakage, but it is like microaneurysm lead to leakage, but microaneurysm is not a leakage. It is just a bulging of blood vessels. Okay, so here in this case, where this particular microaneurysm starts is at the layer of inner nuclear layer. Okay, so this is the first change due to for a diabetic retinopathy. So it is like once the pericyte gets lost, the blood vessels gets bulged up. Only then it bursts out or it breaks, and then there will be a change in the there will be a leakage in the retina. Next, what will actually happen at initial stages? This is like when there is a microaneurysm, it won't occur directly seen in the bigger blood vessels. It starts with the peripheral blood vessels at the in the peripheral or peripheral retina. So how it actually occurs is like a tiny red colored dots. Okay, so it is like the arrow marks here actually leads. When we zoom in, you will be able to see this red colored dots. These are not the bleeding, it is a bulging up of a blood vessels, which is shown as a bleeding. So sometimes what will happen is it will mimic as if there is a leakage. It is like we tell it as a dot hemorrhage. So sometimes it actually looks like a dot hemorrhage, but it doesn't. It is not a dot hemorrhage. It is again a microaneurysm. So it is like we at initial stage microaneurysm and a dot hemorrhage will look similar. So how to find microaneurysm is, as I said, there will be a kind of dot like appearance, which is more in this slide. It is more evident with the OCT image. So it is like OCT is a optical coherent tomography, which we will discuss about how it is working on its imaging properties in the upcoming classes. Whereas now this is an image of a OCT. See here, it is like usually the retina is a multiple layers, and then the blood vessels goes in at the nuclear layer. So when there is a bulging of a nuclear layer, this area alone gets little bigger. So the in the OCT you will see it as a gap, whereas in case of a FFA is fundus fluorescent angiography. So what again we will be discussing about FFA in the upcoming classes. But as of now, for you to understand what exactly we are doing in FFA is, we will be injecting a fluorescent into our bloodstream. So once it gets circulated into your retina, so we will be taking this kind of image. Okay, so this is more sensitive to a fluorescent. So this will give you a dot like structures. What the dots which you see here are the microaneurysm. Okay, why is it more why the microaneurysm is seen as a hyper reflective dot is because fluorescent is, we are just injecting the fluorescent into the bloodstream. So what will happen is, it is like it normally just goes in. So whenever there is a bulge which is a microaneurysm, there is a pooling of blood vessel inside. Okay, so when there is a pooling of blood vessel inside, this area will alone be looking like a there is too much of fluorescent within this area. So that's why these areas are looking like a extra hyper reflective dots are there. So this is the reason why it is easily appreciated in case of a fundus fluorescent angiography. So then comes the hard exudates. So how exactly it happens is, it is like, as I said before, whenever there is a loss of pericytes, the blood contents like lipids and proteins gets filtered out from the blood vessel into the retina. Okay, so in this case what will happen is, once the blood contents are just filled out, so what will happen is they will be getting deposited within the retina. Okay, so these changes will have a distinct margin. So for example, it is like in case if there is a droplet on a table, the margins will be, you will be able to see, it is like if it is getting dried for a minute, the margins alone there will be a kind of mark. Same kind of mark will be there in this particular exudates. So how it gets resolved is, once the leaking of lipids gets arrested, again these hard exudates will be getting absorbed within the retina, and then they will disappear. So these hard exudates will be appearing in the layer of outer plexiform layer. Okay. So in this case, it is like This is the normal fundus photograph. So here it is like usually hard exudates appears like a waxy substances. So how it actually looks like is it is like uh, like a clump. It is like, for example, the retina is a smooth layer. So what will happen is if there is a too much of deposit in somewhere, so what will happen is there will be clump of wastage. So there will be a you will be able to see when you see binocularly using IDO, you will be able to see its contours. So there will be a clump of lipids. Okay, so and they have a distinct margin. Why I say distinct margin is it is like even cotton wool spots will appear like a same yellow dots. Thing is, it is like they don't have a distinct margin, whereas hard exudates have a distinct margin. Okay, so here, one second, I'll just erase it. Here, in case of OCT, so here this is a outer plexiform layer. So this is the place where your outer plexiform layer occurs. So here in this case, what I want you to do is, we have a video describing the layers of retina. I want you to memorize the layers of retina before before proceeding further with this presentation, because whatever the changes which I say, I want you to correlate with the retinal layers. Only then you will be able to understand what exactly is happening here. Okay, so make sure you memorize all the 10 layers in an order so that you will understand this video better. So in case if you are not aware of the videos, or if you are not aware of the layers of retina, please go through that video and then come back, resume this video. So after this, it is like we will be speaking about layers. I want you to know at what place each layers are placed in. Okay, so that only then you will be able to understand why the change is occurring over that particular area, or in the particular layer. Okay, so make sure you go back. Maybe I will just give it in a I button here, so that it is like once you click the I button, you will be able to go to navigate to that particular video. So coming back to this video, OCT is based on a light. It is an optical coherent tomography. So what exactly the OCT, how exactly the OCT works is, whenever you pass on a light like this, it is like different layers of retina has a different reflectivity and different observing capacity. So each layer has a particular property. So based on its reflection and absorption, you are getting this red color and green color dots. So here in this case, red is hyper reflectivity. It is like it is once you just pass on the light, after this red there is no light passing on. That's why it is like below this you will be able to you are able to see a dark space. Whereas in here, looking at the hard exudates here, what exactly is happening is, looking at the hard exudates here, what it is like it is hyper reflective. So that's the reason why the layers below is found black. Okay, so it is not allowing the light to pass on further to investigate about the other layers. Okay, that's why it is hyper reflective here. Fine. Slide, it is like once after microaneurysms, it is like it is getting bulged. So what will happen is there will be a leakage, because there is a thinning out of layer. So those leakages are the hard exudates. So after this, like if you keep on pushing up blowing a balloon with the air, what will happen is it will burst out. So same thing, microaneurysm will also burst out and then start to leak the blood from the blood vessel. So again, the That particular leakage is called as retinal hemorrhage. So retinal hemorrhage can be further divided into flame shaped hemorrhage and dot or blot hemorrhage. So these are the dot hemorrhages here. Okay, this is blot. These are the dot hemorrhages. Small dot. It is like you will just see it as a minor dot. This is a flame shape. Why it is like it will almost like appear like a flame. That's why it is called as flame shaped hemorrhage. So I just want you to see the difference between these two. And in case of a dot hemorrhage is going to appear in the layer of retinal nerve fiber layer, whereas flame shaped hemorrhage is in the retinal nerve fiber layer, whereas dot and blot hemorrhages are found in the within the intraretinal layers. Okay, so just again I remind you, just go and read the layers, memorize the layers, only then come to this. So it is like whenever I say particular layer, just imagine at your back head and then how it is actually happening. Just give it as a kind of animatic video and then just try to think how the changes is actually occurring. Okay, so after this hemorrhage, the major thing is the diabetic macular edema. So what is edema? Edema is a swelling. So macular edema is at the macula there is a swelling. So it is a major, it is like there is no much changes in the retina, but it might also couple with other changes. In case of a diabetic retinopathy, if there is an peripheral changes, there won't be much patient won't have a much vision loss. Whereas in case of diabetic macular edema, it is a macula is the central portion where you have a maximum sensitivity. So if there is a swelling in this particular area, what is actually happening is the patient will suddenly have a visual symptoms. Okay, so that is a reason why they might be able to see they won't be able to see a straight line as a straight line. There will be a wavy appearance of a straight line. It is like in case if you're seeing at a rail, it won't appear like a straight line. It might appear like a wave. Your face might, the person whom they are looking at, their face might look wavy. So they won't have a clear image over it. So initially where it is actually occurs is, it actually occurs between the outer plexiform layer and the inner nuclear layer. At a later stage, if it is getting untreated, what happens is it reaches till nerve fiber layer. So it is to be treated, and it usually occurs in a diffuse way, and then there will be like a bumpy, it is like it is not going to be at a particular point, it will be like a diffuse way, and then it will be almost equal. Okay, so in this case again this might again lead to, if not treated, it might again lead to detachments. Fine. So again coming to FFA, how the pattern of FFA looks in case of a diabetic macular edema is, or DME. We usually just remember this is how we actually mention it in a file. So usually it appears like a flower petal shape. So if you just see it, it is looking like a flower petal shape. So this is how your appearance is in case of a diabetic macular edema. So what is happening here is, here there is no much of pooling, whereas here there is so much of edema. That's why there is hyper reflectivity in that particular around the macula. So coming to OCT image, see, can you just see the big hole here? Usually this is the place where you see a curve, which is a representation of a fovea. So here this particular area is bulged because of edematic changes. So we tell you this is called as a cystoid space. The difference between cyst and edema is, whereas in case of edema there is a too much of liquid inside, whereas in case of a cyst it is a air space in between. Okay, so this is the difference between a cyst and a edema. Edema, it is like a blister which we form, whereas cyst is like a which we get in a kind of wart. So it is like there will be air space between in within the retina. So this is the difference between a cyst and a edema. So again, this is again a macular edema, and there is a retinal traction. Traction is pulling off retina by the vitreous. So there is a vitreous traction again here. The major when we call a macular edema is very clinically significant is when we say it is like this is a central macula. So here from the center it is like if there is any changes from the 500 microns from the center, then it is called as clinically significant macular edema. Okay, so it is like there should not be any retinal thickening or swelling within the 500 microns, and there should not be any hard exudates within the 500 microns. So in this case, what is there is we have there is no swelling, but there is hard exudates. So this is again a clinically significant macular edema, whereas swelling is little away from the central macula, so it is away from 500 microns, whereas the swelling is exudates are within 500 macula 500 microns. Okay, so coming next is the cotton wool spot. So what is cotton wool spot is, it is like it is a debris. So exactly what is it is like debris is extra unnecessary things which is like wastage, I mean. Okay, so that is getting accumulated at the in the nerve fiber layer. Okay, so here due to it is like due to the changes in the nerve axons, so it is like how it actually occurs is it will like appear like a fluffy for exactly like cotton candy. So it is like there might be a fluffy like appearance, and there won't be any distinct margin in case of a cotton wool spots, whereas in case of exudates there will be a distinct margin. In case, as I said, there I said as I said before, it is like it will be like appearing like a fluffy appearance. It is like, just see here, it is like how fluffy it is. So and it is like there will be few hyper reflective dots which again causes shadow for from further being imagined. Fine. So then comes the venous changes. So it is like generally venous might become little dilated and tortuous. Tortuous is becoming loopy or becoming a kind of wavy kind. So this is called as tortuosity or tortuous blood vessels. So what exactly happening here is the retina becomes dilatation. It is almost named as, it is like abnormally dilated venous is called as beading. It is not bleeding, it is not bleeding, it is beading. Just check the spelling here. Okay, so just see the difference, don't write it as a beading here. Okay, so here what is actually happening here is there will be there might be thinning out of retinoid particular area, or there might be a swelling. So it is like overall there is a swelling of larger blood vessels. So this is called as venous beading. And whenever there is a changes like see, it is like it is going very crooked in this case. So this is called as tortuous blood vessels. Then comes the intraretinal microvascular abnormalities. So what we name it as a IRMA. So what exactly is happening here is there will be extra connection between two blood vessels. So it is like it if you look here, there are minor blood vessels which are coming in. So what is IRMA is there will be one more blood vessel which is connecting all these smaller blood vessels in a crooked way. Okay, so these are called as IRMA, intraretinal microvascular abnormality. Okay, so these are abnormal growth of vascularization connecting to uh, uh, two blood vessels, which is arterioles and venoles. And a major thing in which we are supposed to consider is with IRMA is it won't cross the major blood vessels. Okay, so it won't cross the major blood vessels. It will appear within the smaller tiny blood vessels alone. So this is how you find IRMA. So again, coming to the types, the major changes in case of a proliferative diabetic retinopathy is there will be neovascularization of a disc, neovascularization of a retina also. It is in case of a periphery, we will tell you sir, in case of neovascularization elsewhere, and then it is a neovascularization in the disc. So here is the hemorrhage, dot and blot hemorrhages. This is flame shaped hemorrhage. Here it is dot and blot. Okay, so it is like these are the major changes in case of a proliferative diabetic retinopathy. How we are supposed to consider this is always from the macula we divide the retina into 4 quadrants from the macula. So this is quadrant 1, 2, 3 and 4. So it is like if there is a neovascularization in more than one quadrant, then it is a proliferative diabetic retinopathy. So here, as I said before, this is a neovascularization in the iris, which we name it as a rubeosis. Fine. So then comes the vitreous hemorrhage. Previously we have seen what is retinal hemorrhage. Here it is vitreous hemorrhage. What is vitreous hemorrhage is there will be too much of blood getting accumulated at the vitreous cavity. So it is like in between this is a vitreous, this is a retina. So here there will be too much of blood. So what will happen is this blood will avoid us from further examining the retina. Okay, see there is too much IRMAs and venous abnormalities. Okay, so it is like these cottonwools, these hyperreflectives are more of a cottonwool spots. Okay, so in case of coming back to this particular slide, in case of vitreous hemorrhage, there it is like what is actually happening is there will be blood which is coming in front of a retina, so which is again blocking the light from reaching the retina. So again this will have a visual problem from blocking, as well as there will be a traction of a retina which might lead to retinal detachment. So see here, this like again, as I said, when there is a traction or pulling of retina from RPE, there will be a detachment. So this is a high risk condition where it is like patient might even lose your vision completely. Okay, so it is whenever there is a bleeding, it is like bleeding is going to occur within the retinal layers. So what will happen is retinal layers are supposed to be intact, all 10 layers are. When there is a bleeding within the layers, there will be a separation of a layers and there will be too much of blood inside. So once the retina is getting detached, the patient might have come up with the vision problems. So the major symptoms with case of a diabetic retinopathy is they will have a gradual diminution of vision and there might be a fluctuation in vision. Okay, just consider these things: gradual diminution of vision, then they will be complaining about fluctuation of vision, and then they will have a difficulty near, they might see a floaters, which is again it might be a floaters, or it might be even a vitreous hemorrhage. Again there will be a dark spot in front of the eye. It is like this is in case of a changes in the macula, and there will be a distortion. So just remember these symptoms, which these are the symptoms which patient might frequently come in case of a undiagnosed diabetic retinopathy. Okay, so thank you for listening to now. So what we'll do is in the later on slides we'll just discuss about the various investigation procedures and how to correlate them. So just what I want you to do is, so watch all the videos which I have posted continuously if you are not watching it continuously. So it is like, so that you will get a flow from what is diabetes to how the changes is occurring. Okay, thank you.